Hey everybody, this is Jason Ludeking with Seeking Hero, here to teach you everything that you need to know in order to play Oathen. Now I'm going to do this video through a tabletop simulator. It's what you see on your screen here. Tabletop Simulator is by Berserk Games. You can pick up a copy at berserk-games.com. This is also the software that we use to do all of our playtesting online, which right now is 3 games a week. So if you would like to get in on a game, and more than likely we actually sent you here to watch the rules, but if you're fresh, seeing Oathen for the first time, you'd like to get a playtesting game in, go ahead and join our Facebook group. You can search for us at, I think it's Oathen Playtesting Group, because I'm super creative with naming. You can join our Facebook group, and we'll sneak you into a playtest. So without further ado, let's go ahead and just jump right into setting up the game. Now, if you're playing Oathen in person, you should actually have a board that is called your cooldown track. It's a board that folds out. In Tabletop Simulator, we just use this 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 thing right here. But the physical game, you actually have a board, and you're going to set that right in front of you. You're also going to have a number of health markers. So you'll choose which color you want to be, and you'll set those above your board. Next, we go ahead and set up the arena tiles. Now, the base box of Oathen has 52 total locations. These are all different environmental effects. If your character were to move into a space with a tile that hasn't been revealed yet, you'll flip it over. And then this is an effect for the rest of the game. So this particular tile's oil trail. If you're entering that space, you move an additional space in the same direction. So if you were right here, you move into oil trail, you flip it over, you're actually going to end up in this tile, and you'd probably have to reveal whatever that one is. So these are all different environmental effects. You've got 52 total. You only use 36 per game. So every time you play, you're going to have different combinations of where the arena tiles are located, tiles that weren't even in the last couple of games. So I'm going to start dealing these out for a 4-player game. 3 to 6 players, you play with a 6x6 grid. If you're playing 2 players, you use a 5x5 grid. I'm also setting these up in the arena game mode. It's essentially like a death match. You can play in free-for-all, or you can play team versus team. The team versus team is awesome, especially when you get into some of the extra characters that aren't shown here yet. But if you stick around to the end of the video, I'll get into all the other characters. I've been working on this for 4 years, so the base box comes with these 6 heroes, but there's actually 24 in total. So I've got healers, tanks, support classes, damage dealers near and far. And if you join our playtesting group, you get to play with all 24 characters. So much fun, I promise. So we've set this up for the arena game mode. There are 2 other game modes in Oathen. There is Capture the Flag, which plays kind of what you'd expect from a Capture the Flag game. And then the very last game mode is called Roundtable, and it's what I recommend if you have an odd number of players and you can't do a team versus team match. So in Roundtable, your goal to win is to kill the person to your right. As soon as somebody dies, whoever kills them wins, or whoever their left person is anyway. So, but for right now, and for the purposes of explaining the rules, we're just doing a good old-fashioned arena match. So this is going to be a team versus team match. So after every single player has received their cooldown track, they've set that board up and they've got their health markers, and once we've set up the arena tiles, next is to select teams. Now, I have already dealt out the cards, but each player will get a card for one of the factions in Oathen, and I am starting off as the Queendom of Norn. So there are 2 factions in the base game. I'm going to be on the Nornish side, and we're going to go ahead and go around the arena and just reveal the other factions. Okay, so this is the other one. This is the Kingdom of Nevet. So we are on opposite teams. This person is also a Kingdom of Nevet, and that means this is my teammate. So beginning of the game, you draw out 2 and 2. Since we have 4 players, you shuffle them up. Each person gets a card. That's going to determine your team. Now next we have to figure out who is the arena master. So as you can see here, I am just a combatant for this match, and this is the same deal. You'd have 1 arena master card. You fill the rest of the spots in with combatants. Let's see who the arena master is. That's another combatant. You are also a combatant, and that means that my partner is the arena master. Now, as a side note, some of the artwork that you're going to see in this demo is not what is going to be in the final copy of Oathen. It is only used for demonstration. I do not own copyrights or anything to some of those images there, so the only original artwork that you will be seeing is really these character portraits. Now the game does have again these 6 characters. So before we begin and go deeper into the game here, I just want to really quickly give kind of a rundown of each of the characters, explain how they play, because each one has their own play style. And now that we've determined who the Arena Master is, each person is going to be selecting their characters. So the very first character that we have here is Bravus the Berserker. He is a very, very mobile melee class. He can get around the arena really quickly. He deals a lot of damage through kind of incremental axe strikes. So during a round, it's all about him just hitting and hitting and hitting to kind of wear out your defenses and make it through to deal a lot of damage to you. The next character is Nixa the Assassin. Your typical, stealth and sneaky, stabby, poisons kind of character. She is most lethal when she is in your space. So if you are starting the round with Nixa right in your space, you want to plan a lot of your defensive abilities because she's going to make you pay for it. Next we have Eldheim, the Fire Mage. A lot of damage with him too. He's essentially like a glass cannon, so he can dish it out in tremendous amounts. But a lot of his abilities also backfire. Well, not necessarily backfire, but they have a backlash where they damage him. So you want to make sure that you don't go too big, otherwise you're going to end up dying and killing yourself. Isolde is a very defensive mage. She has different kind of protective spells, so like a frozen shield that she can put up to kind of reduce a lot of the damage that she would take. Also very good with her control of the arena, so she can root people in place. A lot of her abilities cause irreducible damage, so they're actually piercing effects. So if somebody's putting up a lot of armor, she's good to just cut straight through it. So very defensive, control-based class. Next we have Quinn, who is the marksman. He has 2 different guns that he can use. So he's got the hand cannon, which is short range, and then he's got the long rifle that lets him shoot all the way across the arena. He has interchangeable ammo that can apply different effects to his shots. So for example, if he needs to apply a stun condition on somebody all the way across the arena, he can use a flashbang round to kind of roll that right into his shots. So really, really good about applying those status effects to people. Next we have Anali. Anali's the shapeshifter, also a very diverse character, very dynamic. So he has different animal forms that he can shift into, or he can also just go without a form for the round. All of his abilities have a standard effect on them, but they also have different bonuses that can be applied to them depending on which animal form that person's in. So if he's, shapeshifts into a tiger, some of his abilities would let him deal more damage, that would let him target a second target for damage. Or if you have to be more defensive, you can shift into a bear and you can use some more of the bear bonuses on your cards. So very dynamic character into deciding like which form that you're going to be in and how you're going to play your abilities. So those are the 6 characters there. If you want more information on the full set of 24, stay to the end of this video, and I'm going to go into each of the characters and kind of give a rundown of how they work, or I may put that into a second video, but the rest of this is just largely going to be the rules. So now that the orange player has been chosen as the Arena Master, they're going to choose the character that they want to play, and he decides that he's going to play Eldheim. Now, how choosing works here. So the Arena Master gets to choose their character first. They choose the side of the board that they want to start on first, and they also start the round, which is a lot of good things, but it also lets the other team choose characters that can, counter the Fire Mage. So as we're choosing characters too, we choose based on the next team's player in clockwise order. So he's on the side of the Norn. Clockwise, this person's on the side of the Navette. So red team is going to pick next, or the red player. So he decides that he's going to be Bravus the Berserker. Now we go clockwise again. Now this person's also in the Kingdom of Navette, so he gets skipped, and instead it goes to me because I'm a Norn. I'm going to go ahead and choose the Assassin. And then lastly, it goes clockwise around the table again to the blue player, and then she decides to play Isolda, the Ice Mage. All right, then once we've done that, let me go ahead and get rid of these other decks. Then we also choose our starting gate location. So starting with the Arena Master, so the Fire Mage, he's going to choose his starting gate location, and he decides to go right here. Next, we go up to Bravus the Berserker, and he's going to decide to go right here. Now we go clockwise around again to me. Now, knowing that the Ice Mage has to choose this side of the board, I'm going to go right here on the edge. My goal is to try and lay into her as much as I can from round one. And lastly, we cycle around, and she decides to be gutsy, and she's actually going to go ahead and start right here. Now, characters also have different effects that they can cause certain locations on the arena tiles, and that's what these are here. Fire Mage has this. This is his Firebomb ability. And then we'll go ahead and we'll get rid of these extra stuff. Okay, so now we've all selected our characters. We've selected our starting gates. We are now ready to begin this game. Now, the rest of the rules for Oathen are actually really, really easy to pick up. I wanted to design a game that didn't require a lot of rulebook recall. So you can literally learn everything about the round and about how to play simply by going top down on this turn order card. So there are 3 phases in Oathen. There's the planning phase, the action phase, and the cooldown phase. Now, starting in the planning phase, the very first thing that we would do are start a round effects. Now, this is a brand new game, so we're not going to have any start a round effects right from the get-go, but if they do pop up in a game, just know that you do them right at the very beginning of the round. Now, once those are done, then we move on to part 2 of the planning phase, and that is going through our skill book and choosing 4 abilities that we want to do during this round. Now, I've got my skill book here. Now, again, I'm very much an assassin-based player. I love assassin kind of characters, so I've gone with her, and she's got a lot of, kind of what you'd expect from an assassin-based class. Now, it's important to know that there are 4 different kinds of abilities in your skill book. The first kind of ability, and if you ever forget these, if you actually go onto the back side of your turn order card, it gives you a summary of each of the ability types. On Tabletop Simulator, this isn't all that pretty, but in the physical copy, you've got a really cool, neat card that really explains these well. So for right now, we're going to go through each of the ability types. Battle actions are your most basic ability. So these are a lot of like your movement and attacks. They are cards that have a red corner, and they have a little cross swords mark, watermark. So you'll see that on the bottom left. The next kind of action are enhancement actions. They have a purple corner with a little chain link. Enhancement actions are always played with a battle action to enhance its effect. So, for example, if it was my turn to play a card, I can play both Lunging Stab and Sneak Attack. And with Sneak Attack, it says if your attack is made into any space other than the one you're on, gain +1 damage on that attack. So I could play these together and essentially deal 2 damage to somebody as long as they weren't in my space. Now, you'll see the little glyph that's on the card there, those boxes with the X's. The box that's in the middle with a circle in it, that is your position in the arena. So the squares that are around it are the squares that are around your square. So any of the squares that have an X in it, so for example, if I was in this space, I could attack all 8 of these adjacent spaces as well as my space based on this glyph that's on this card. Now, if I'm combining it with Sneak Attack as that enhancement action, enhancing my battle action, I'm going to want to choose somebody that's not in my space. That way I can do 2 damage with Lunging Stab. Cool? The next action type are Blitz actions. They have a green corner with a little lightning bolt symbol. These are basically your instant cards. So you can do them if it's your turn. You can do them if it's somebody else's turn. A lot of your counter attacks, your evasive type abilities, they're largely blitz actions because it's somebody playing an ability on you, and then you can use this with it not being your turn to kind of get out of the way. So Careful Step is a really great example of a blitz that is both defensive and offensive. So if somebody is targeting me with an ability and I can play Careful Step to get out of range of it, it misses. They can no longer hit me, so I can actually use it to avoid attacks. Or let's suppose, these three abilities, going back to Lunging Stab and Sneak Attack, I can use Careful Step. Let's suppose I start the round in the same space as somebody. I can use Careful Step to move out of their space and then immediately do Lunging Stab with Sneak Attack to then hit them for 2 damage. So that's an example of using a blitz action offensively, if it's that kind of action. The very last action type is prep actions, and they have a blue corner with a little shield watermark. Prep actions are basically your passive abilities, so they're in effect for the whole round. Things like armor, weapons, power auras, things like that. Now, there is another special thing about prep actions, but we're going to get into that when we get to the cooldown portion of the round. So for right now, in the planning phase, we're now going to go through our decks and choose 4 abilities that we want to do during this round. Now, just because I wanted to make this go as quickly and smoothly as possible, I've already planned the actions for the other players. So these are going to be the cards that they're going to play. I'm going to play them in chronological order, but that's not how the actual game works. So you'll see as I choose my abilities, I'm going to be playing them in any order that I want, so whatever fits that particular moment. But just so that I can remember who has what cards, I'm going to play theirs in chronological order. So here we are, second part of the planning phase. I'm now going to go through my deck, and I'm going to choose 4 abilities that I want to do right from this first round. Now, because I placed myself on this corner, my goal is going to be to lay into that Ice Mage as hard as I can right from the get-go. So I don't know where she's going to move, if she's going to move straight out or if she's going to move diagonal. So I'm actually going to plan Shadow Stalk as the first ability that I want to play. So with Shadow Stalk, I can move into the same space as the first target encountered in a direction. So regardless of where she moves right from the get-go, I'm going to be able to be right in her space right away. So my next plan is that once I'm in her space, I want to plan this blitz action to give her a root condition. I don't want her to move because I want to lay into her really hard with my most powerful attack, and that is Assassination. So with Assassination, as long as the person is in the same space as me, I can deal 2 damage to them. Lastly, I need another damage thing because every single character has 2 move cards. So she's going to spend 1 move to get into the arena, and then I'm going to be rooting her, which is going to eat her second move. So she's not going to be able to get away from me. That I could pretty much plan as my 4th card another damage ability, knowing that I'm going to have her right where I want her. So I think I'm going to go ahead and use my ultimate ability, Twin Shadows. So Twin Shadows, it is the Assassin's ultimate. Each character has 1 ultimate that really can turn the tides of battle. Assassin's is really cool because it can be used in this situation to really stack up a lot of damage. You can use it for more utility to play essentially like a 3rd move card, or things like that. So my goal here is that I want to double assassinate the Ice Mage. So these are the cards that I'm going to be playing. So we'll see how this goes. Let me go ahead and get rid of these cards here. Well, these are dummy cards that I created for the example. Let's go ahead and, when I get to the cooldown phase, this is going to make sense. But I'm just going to go ahead and set these on my cooldown track right now, even though this is the first round. But this will help me explain the cooldown phase when we get to it. Cool? All right. So here we go. So top of the action phase, starting with the Arena Master, which is my orange compadre here. He is going to play any battle or prep actions that he has. So preps always come out first during the action phase. That way we all know what passive abilities are in effect for this round. Now, if you don't have a prep action, which my orange partner here does not, you just say no preps. So then it's going to go ahead and move on clockwise to Bravos the Berserker, and he says no preps. Then it moves around to the Ice Mage, and she says that she has a prep, and she is going to play Wintertide Robes. Now, this puts a big kink into my plans. Wintertide Robes, each time that an opponent plays a non-enhancement ability on you, their active card slots are reduced by 1. So, essentially, I'm going to hit her with an ability, and it's going to end up sending... your active card slots are the number of cards that you can plan for a round. So you start the round with 4 active card slots. When I hit her with an attack, I'm going to have to get rid of one of these cards and put it back into my skill book. So that's going to mean that I'm probably not going to be able to get off this Twin Shadows because Wintertide Robes is going to eat that ability. And that's probably the one that I should save for last. So that sucks. I'm going to have to figure out how to work around that. So it gets to me. I say no preps. So now that it's back to Eldheim, the orange player, we then move on to the second part of the action phase. So starting with the Arena Master, players then reveal 1 battle action each until all battle actions have been played. So let's go ahead and jump over to Eldheim. He's now going to choose one of his 4 cards to play. And he decides to play Move. So you'll see the glyph on that card. He can move straight out, he can move back, left, right, diagonals. Now, because he's in a starting gate, he has to move into the arena. But he has these 3 options that he can choose from. So Eldheim's going to move straight into the arena, and he finds a Baron, which is a pretty safe space for my partner. All right, next, clockwise, it goes to Bravas. He's going to choose one of his 4 cards to play, and he decides to also play a move. Now, he has decided that he's going to go straight after Eldheim, because Eldheim's on the other team. So he's going to try and deal as much damage to him as he can, since the 2 of us are off in this corner, and it's probably going to take him a while to get up with his partner. Okay, so now we go ahead and move over to Isolde, and she decides to also play a move. Now, she's trying to get away from me, so she's actually going to move diagonal out, and she finds a Mysterious Cove. Now, when we get to the cooldown phase, I can explain end round effects, but this particular tile is an end round. So she finds the Mysterious Cove. And then it comes to me for my turn. So it's time to be an assassin. So I'm going to go ahead and start off with Shadowstalk, which, by the glyph on the card, I move into the same space as the first target encountered in a direction. So I can actually jump straight ahead into Mysterious Cove with the Ice Mage. And then right away, I play my Blitz card to give her a root condition. So she now has a root. Now, when you gain conditions, you set them into your hand here. So if she has a move action and she tries to move, that root is going to get played and it's going to skip her turn. When we actually get into a game, I can explain roots and stuns a little bit better, but for now we'll just kind of go through the rest of this turn order. So I played my 1 battle action. So now we're going to go back to Eldheim for him to play his next action. And he decides to play another move. Now, seeing that the Berserker is clearly going after him, Eldheim decides to move this way, and he finds the Arena Throne. So the Arena Throne, if you end the round here alone and you did not take damage this round, you may heal 1 health. It's a pretty good space to end on. So now we move clockwise to Bravas. Bravas is going to play another move. This time he's going south again. All right, we go to Isolde. She is going to play Ice Coffin. So her assumption, just because I had placed right on the edge, is that I was going to go after her. So with Ice Coffin, it is an ability that you can play offensively or defensively. So you and the target each choose to keep... Okay, let me start over. You and the target must each choose 1 unused planned ability to keep. The remaining unused abilities are returned to your skill books. All damage dealt to that target is reduced by 4 during this round. Now, I am directly in her space. And like I talked about with the assassin before, if she is in your space, that is when she is the most lethal. So Isolde is actually going to target herself with Ice Coffin. And that means that she is going to send her root condition back to her skill book, because with Ice Coffin, she's only able to keep 1 ability. But now she has 4 damage reduction for the rest of this round. Now that, of course, was a smart move because my next action is Assassination. So I would have been able to deal her 2 damage. Oops. Let me also rewind here for a second. When I did Dark Grip on her, because I targeted her with that ability, and she's got her Wintertide Robes, each time that an opponent plays a non-enhancement ability on you, their active card slots are reduced by 1. So my Twin Shadows actually went back to my skill book. So the only ability I have left to play is Assassination. Now, Assassination, I am hitting her Ice Coffin, so it doesn't deal any damage. And then she's also going to respond with Ice Spikes as her Blitz action. So she's actually counterattacking me. So if being attacked from a target space, you deal 1 irreducible damage to the attacker. So I would get hit for 1 damage. All right. As another note too, different characters have different amounts of health. So you'll see the little heart that's in the top left. As the assassin, I should only have 6 health. As the fire mage, he has 8 health. The berserker has 7 health. And lastly, the ice mage has 7 health. So this is something that I should have done right from the beginning, but I forgot. So beginning of the game, you'll also you'll restrict your health down to whatever the health is for your character. So okay, so I did my assassination, which means it now comes back to Eldheim to play a battle action, and he chooses Firebomb. So Firebomb, create a firebomb in a target space. When this card reaches cooldown 2 during the cooldown phase, the firebomb explodes, dealing 1 damage to all targets in each of the 9 target spaces. So he is actually going to target right where the berserker is at. So at the end of next round, firebomb is going to explode and potentially deal the berserker 1 damage if the berserker is still in that space. Now the berserker, being the kind of combatant that he has death from above. Death from above, you jump exactly 2 spaces in one direction, then deal 1 damage to a target in that space. So Berserker, let me go ahead and move this firebomb out of the way here. Berserker is using Death from above to jump over the 2, and then he's going to try and land in the arena throne with the fire mage and deal him a damage. Now, the fire mage was kind of expecting that to happen, because in response to that, he plans Heat Snap. So he can either appear 2 spaces away, ignoring the space needed to reach that location, or he can swap places with an active firebomb that he has placed anywhere in the arena. So the Berserker just tried to get away from the firebomb, and instead, Eldheim is now going to swap positions with his firebomb, thus bringing it right back to the Berserker. Okay. So now we go to the Ice Mage. She is out of battle actions. We go to me. I'm out of battle actions. We go back to the Fire Mage, who is out of battle actions. And that means that we then end the round with Bravas playing Swing Axe, and he's not actually able to target anybody. So that's an example of an action phase. And now it brings us to the cooldown phase of the round. So action phase, once the last battle action has been played, the action phase is over. Starting the cooldown phase, any abilities that are on the cooldown track shift 1 to the right. So this is where I said that these dummy cards will help me with the cooldown phase. So each ability will shift 1 to the right. Next, I return any recycle cards to my skill book. So recycle cards, any abilities that can be used every single round. So for example, if I come over here to the Ice Mage, instead of a cooldown number in the bottom left, there's a recycle symbol. So this ability is actually going to go right back into her skill book. So if I were doing the cooldown phase from her perspective, this goes in. And then the very last part of the cooldown phase here, dealing with cooldowns, you place the remaining abilities planned this round onto the cooldown track. Into the numbers that are in the bottom left. So Ice Coffin is a cooldown 5. You put it in the cooldown 5. Wintertide Robes is a cooldown 4. Ice Spikes is a cooldown 3. Now, there's something special about prep actions when it comes to cooldowns. If your prep action is still in effect at the end of the round, you can choose not to put it on cooldown at the end of the round. You can carry this into next round. The only negative is that it impacts how many abilities that you can plan for next round. So usually you plan 4 abilities per round. If I'm keeping Wintertide Robes in play, if I were the Ice Mage, I'd only be able to plan 3 abilities because this Wintertide Robes is taking up one of those slots. So that means doing my abilities here, Assassination would go on cooldown 4, so it stacks on top of the ability that was just there. Dark Grip goes on cooldown 2, and then Shadow Stalk goes on cooldown 3. So every single round, these abilities will shift. So if we, just for example, this is the end of next round, Dark Grip is actually going to shift right back into my skill book. All of these are going to move down, and now I have Dark Grip available to use again that next round. Okay. Lastly, we do any end of round effects in player order. So we've got Mysterious Cove out here on the out on the table, and both me and the Ice Mage have ended our rounds there. Now, if we're going in turn order, the Fire Mage was the Arena Master this round. So the Fire Mage, there's no end of round effects dealing with him. The Berserker, there's no end of round effects dealing with him other than Arena Throne, but he's already at full health. So then we get to the Ice Mage. So the Ice Mage, end round, shift your cooldowns an additional time. So that means that even though this stuff just went on cooldown this round, she's able to shift it again. And the same applies to me, because I'm also on the Mysterious Cove. My abilities are now going to shift into my skill book. All right. And then the very last part of the round is that we shift the Arena Master clockwise to the right. So this next round, Bravus the Berserker, he's actually going to be starting that round. So Oathen has a lot of attack and counterattacks. There's different kinds of ability types that really make it into kind of what feels like a live battle, rather than just, everyone's playing one battle action each. There's different ways to react to things. And when you get with just all of the different characters that are in the game, you have tons of different play styles, so many different moments dealing with like the arena tiles and how everybody's playing their abilities against each other. You have a deck of 20 cards, so you just have a tremendous amount of like combinations of abilities that you can play. So like with Assassin, I've got different kinds of stabs that I can do. So Stab Joint, I can deal 1 damage to a target and they get a stun condition. And then I can use enhancement actions like the sneak attack that I used in my example earlier. There's different kinds of poisons that I can use. So here's a Twilight Poison that I can connect with my Stab Joint. If somebody had an armor card, for example, you'll see right in the middle there in the yellow text, this is an armor card. I could use Twilight Poison to completely negate that effect and then still keep my 4th card, still keep my full active card slots. So there's different ways that, I can Careful Step, get closer to somebody, Dark Grip to root them. So there's just different types of combos that you can put together to really carry out some neat stuff. So that's basically how Oathen works. It's literally just top-down turn order card. There are a couple other things that we didn't discuss, like the roots and the stun conditions. But whenever you play in a game, we can discuss those. Otherwise, at the very end of the video, maybe I'll get into it some more. And then again, as a treat to y'all who were sent here from the playtesting group, or if this is PAX South, I think I'm going to probably send this video to you guys too. So there are 24 different characters in the game. They all play very differently. They have different strengths and weaknesses. They have different counters among the other characters in the game. The core 6 characters, the ones that we just played with and showed, those have about 1,600 hours of playtesting. About 12 characters have about 600 hours of playtesting. There's different levels of playtesting. 3 of these are brand new. But I figured I would go through the characters and kind of give a rundown of how they work. So Bravus, we already talked about Bravus. We talked about Nixa. This whole side of the table are essentially melee ranged characters. So Sigrian he's a Reaper. He does, whenever he attacks people, he can apply fear tokens to them. And then he can use different things to like feed on the fear, transfer damage directed at him to a target that has fear. His ultimate ability is called Reap, and it will let him actually steal an ability from somebody else's deck, and he can use that as one of his own. Another ability that he has is called the Haunt, where he actually frees this specter from his body. And the Haunt is what you would expect when you think of a Reaper. So, the scythe and the robes, and the Reaper can get around the arena a lot easier than his body can. We have the Shaman. So the Shaman is technically kind of an Oathen version of an orc. So she has very exotic type of attacks that other characters don't. She has a lot of area denial, some very spike damage. She has ways to cause people to burn abilities. And when an ability is burned, it's placed on cooldown 5, regardless of what the cooldown value on the card is. So she can really cause a lot of harm to people if her team lets them sit on them for a while. The Keeper is essentially like an Earth Mage. She has a Stone Golem that she can bring out. As long as she's traveling in the same space as her Stone Golem, she doesn't actually flip over arena tiles. The Golem can also use an ability called Decimate to destroy an arena tile and replace it with a Baron. So she's really good about pretty much control of the arena locations themselves. Then we've got Zane, who is the Gladiator, kind of like your weapons master. He has different weapons that he can change out. They do different things. They have different ranges. When he plays an ability, it'll say on there to use an attack from one of the weapons that he has. So he can actually go with like a sword and a spear, and then choose, which weapon he's actually using for that attack. Next, we move on to the ranged base classes. There's some support kind of stuff in here, but these are essentially ranged damage dealers and support. We talked about Quinn, we talked about Eldheim, and we talked about Isolde. So next we have Makia, who's the Trapper. He actually lays traps in the arena. If anybody enters a space with a trap or they end the round on a trap, it will trigger, and they have different types of effects. So there's like a bear trap, which will deal a damage and cause a root condition. His biggest trap is called the Big One, and it deals 2 damage, and it causes somebody to have to get rid of one of their prep actions. So he's all about really moving traps and placing traps around the arena. If you like chess, if you like kind of that forward-thinking kind of play style, Makia is a lot of fun. Next, we have Misery, who is the Whisper. Basically a cultist. So she can spread plague and diseases, causes a lot of restrictions on people's abilities, negates their healing, a lot of really nasty, like curse-based stuff. She can dish it. Next, we have Corrigan, who is the Trickster. Her playstyle is very much, she's a heavy support base class. She has 1 damaging ability, but she has so many different ways to boost up her allies, to corrupt battle actions of her enemies. She can teleport people across the arena. She is very much a trickster-based class. Next, we move on to... Oh, slight mistake. These 2 characters should actually be on this side. This guy and this guy should be over here. Okay. So next we're moving on to the tanks. Xenos is a force mage. He has a lot of abilities called like outward force and things that he can reduce the damage that he takes by just applying kind of outward pressure. Really kind of more of a support tank. He's great about being able to move people across the arena, as well as move his enemies. So if there's a particular tile on the board that's just bad, that can either damage people when they enter it or has some other kind of effects with entering, he can use his abilities to shove his enemies into those tiles, or to pull his ally out of danger, and then once the ally is within range, do things where he can redirect attacks to himself. So very, very defensive mage. Next we have Gregor, who's the Brawler, kind of a cancellation tank. If anybody's doing any kind of abilities within range of him, he can do blitz actions to counterattack, to lock down their abilities. He doesn't have a lot of health. You'll see he's only a 6 health character, but his ability to cancel actions around him makes him a really solid tank option. He also has a lot of burn abilities where he can burn cards himself to enhance his effects, to really pull off kind of some neat combos. Then we have Warwick, the Alchemist. Most of his abilities are different types of potions that he can drink. What makes Warwick special is that almost every ability he has is a blitz action. So he can do a lot of stuff off turn. I mean, he can damage people off turn, shove them back, just a lot of really, really cool stuff. But every single ability that he plays, each of these potions adds toxicity to his play area. So he might play an ability that gives him 2 toxicity. Once he starts going over 5 toxicity, negative things start to happen to him. He starts taking stun conditions. He starts taking damage. So you can really go big and do a lot of stuff, even when it's not your turn. But you have to be careful that you don't go overboard and toxify yourself way too much. And then each round, he's able to lose toxicity, and he's got abilities called Detox and stuff that will help him drop toxicity markers. Anali we talked about. Jengu, the Blood Fiend. So Jengu is a sponge tank. I mean, he is 9 health. That is the highest health that you can have in the game. He deals damage to people, and he can heal for the damage that he deals. He can redirect attacks at range that are directed at his allies to himself. And then whenever he takes damage, he can use that to kind of enrage himself. So it could cause him to move faster, deal more damage himself. So he's really good about redirecting damage from his allies to himself and then using that to pretty much enrage himself. Sella is the Guardian. She's kind of like a Valkyrie. So very, very much your sword and board heavy tank. Very strong damage reduction type abilities, very good at protecting her allies. Not a ton of damage herself, but if you need a solid like plate tank, Sella's the way to go. All right, then on this side we have Astrid, who is kind of like your pure priest sort of class. Really high healing, really high support, but very squishy. You'll see she's another 6 health character. So as long as she has protection from her teammates and they work with her to pull her out of fights and stuff like that, she really has one of the highest healing outputs and the strongest support type stuff that you can do, outside of the Gambler, who I'm going to get to in a second here. So Astrid's a really great class if you enjoy purely healing and supporting your allies, and you don't want to do a lot of damage and be one of those upfront kind of people. Next we have Logan, the Bard. He has different types of song abilities that he can do to give people like lasting effects and benefits. He has a weapon that will essentially give him a certain amount of songs that he can play during a round. So you can do things to like boost up an ally's damage right before they do a big attack. You can heal somebody during the prep phase, which is something that no other character in this list can do other than the Gambler. But the Gambler, again, I'll talk about in a second. So a lot of really neat ways to heal, a lot of really great ways to boost up people's health or support type stuff. So if you dig like a heavy support class, Logan is definitely the way to go there. All right, then we have the Gambler. Now, the Gambler is unique in that all of his abilities actually have a gamble odds built into the card. In fact, let me pull out the Gambler just so that I can properly explain this here. So you'll see here, this is one of his cards, and the bottom right, it has a 5 next to a little dice symbol. So that is the gamble odds for that card. So what you would do is you would choose, you're going to play this ability during the round. So you choose Firestorm to play. You shuffle up your deck, and then you go ahead and draw one of the cards, and whatever the odds is on that card, that dictates what happens with that ability that you played. So unfortunately here, I played Firestorm, and the odds that I chose were a 1, which means I get the negative side of the card. So my active card slots are reduced by 1. So in his deck, there are 2 of every number from 1 to 9, and then there is 1 10. So it actually does have a gamble mechanic where you're trying to get rid of a lot of your low odds cards, so that way you can make sure that your deck is hot and you get a lot of those good effects. Now you'll see that there is a crit 10 bonus. So on this one, if you got a success, it would be you were attacked, deal the attacker 1 damage regardless of range. But if he had gotten a 10, he can also move a space. So it's different stuff where it can really enhance the effects of his abilities. And because of those gamble odds, it makes Gambler the highest healing, highest support class. So Faithful on her own, she's second best. The Gambler, as long as you keep getting lucky with your draws, he is the top. Next we have the Druid. Very, very mobile character, really good at getting away from danger, staying on the edge of the arena, and still doing a lot of healing. She has a familiar that she can summon. It's like a wolf that's made out of vines and stuff. It's like a plant wolf. That she can actually send the wolf into the fight and heal as if she were in the wolf's position. So even though she's a squishy healer and she's only a 6 health, she's really good at getting away from the fight and then still being effective at healing by healing through her familiar. She also has a mark that she can put on somebody where she can heal from their position and heal them from anywhere in the arena. So really good at distance healing and getting away. Next we have Morgan, who's a necromancer. I wanted to take kind of a different take on the necromancer by not making him just a damage and raising minions kind of character, but actually making him a hybrid healer. So his tactics largely deal with him inflicting damage on somebody and then transferring that life force to heal an ally. So you might want to summon your big tanky undead minion and keep him back just so that you know that you have a solid target to damage and then heal in an emergency. Otherwise, if you're trying to damage an enemy and heal an ally, they may play different types of blitz actions or things like that to actually negate your damage or get out of range, and then your healing ability falls flat. So there's different ways that you can kind of get around that by, again, keeping a minion back or just making sure that your damage counts. So he is a damage infliction and then healing based character, so kind of a hybrid healing damage class. And then lastly, out of the 24, we have the Paladin. So the Paladin has a very short range, but he has very strong heals and pretty decent damage. So as long as he is up close, right on the front line, right in the thick of battle, he can be a very, very effective healer. He can also do a lot of kind of support damage to make sure that you guys can finish off targets. The problem with Paladin ends up being that if somebody roots him in place and he's far away from his allies, or if somebody does like a knockback effect or things like that, he gets out of range of his allies, suddenly it becomes a very difficult fight of him trying to keep up with his people. So as a team, you want to make sure that you stay close to your Paladin, and as the Paladin, you want to make sure that you're up there with your people. And then you're great. He also has a lot of good damage reduction, so if he does get focused, he can do different things to kind of prevent some of the damage that he would take. So that is the 24 current characters. I think by the time that I get through the base box, and I've got it on Kickstarter and it's successfully funded, fingers crossed, I will probably have designed another set of 6, or I'll be working on it at least. But for the time being, I have 26 different characters, healers, tanks, the whole 9 yards. And then I guess as a very last thing before I end this video, I can explain how roots and stuns work. And then you literally know everything about the game. So, root conditions. Place this card in your hand and place the root token under your hero. When you reveal your next move card this round, place this root condition on top of that action and that move is negated. Root conditions can accumulate and you must play each of them either on your move abilities or as planned battle actions before you may activate move cards again. So how roots work is, let's suppose you get a root condition in the middle of a round and you still have your move card in your hand to play that round. When it gets to your turn and you decide to play your move, you have to lay the root card down on top of it, and then your turn is skipped. You don't actually get to move. It negates that ability. If you gain a root condition at the end of a round, you can send it back to your skill book, and you can basically, if you're a ranged class like the marksman, you can let those root conditions really stay inside your skill book and pile up. It only applies to the actual card that says move. So for example, when I was playing the assassin, I used Shadow Stalk, and that let me jump into the Ice Mage's space. Even if I was rooted, I could have still done Shadow Stalk. It's only the cards that say move that are actually impacted by the rooted condition. So that's how that works. There are also some classes that can punish you for having roots. So, for example, the Ice Mage's ultimate ability is called Exploding Ice. For every root condition that somebody has, either in their hand or in their skill book, she can convert all of them into irreducible damage. So it's piercing damage. And then she can hit them with all of that damage based on how many roots that they have. So if I had 3 roots in my skill book, she could do Exploding Ice on me, and I'm taking 3 irreducible damage anywhere in the arena. So you wanna get rid of your root conditions if Isolde is in the game. All right, the next condition here is the stun condition. Place this card in your hand and place the stun token under your hero. When you reveal your next battle action, place the stun condition on top of that action. That battle action is negated. If you gain stun conditions when you have no further battle actions planned this round, you must play them as your first battle action next round. While actively stunned, you may not use blitz actions. So you gain a stun condition in the middle of the round. The next time that you're supposed to play a battle action, you have to lay down one of the battle actions in your hand, and then you have to place the stun on top of it, and then that battle action is done. Your turn is skipped. That battle action is still going to go on cooldown. Now, if you gain a stun condition and you don't have any battle actions left, that stun goes back to your skill book, and then of the 4 cards that you plan next round, that stun has to be one of the 4, and it has to be played as your first battle action. And then, yeah, as the bottom text on there, until you actually play that battle action and you clear your, until you play the stun and you clear it, you cannot use blitz actions. So for classes like the Brawler, I talked about how he's got a lot of blitz actions to cancel out abilities and stuff like that. If you're stunned, that shuts him down. That is pretty much it. He doesn't have a lot of ways to respond to stuff. He's got to fall back on his prep actions, which can be very expensive for him. It's a lot of burning abilities to try and prevent the damage that he takes. So stuns are kind of his weakness. So those are the 2 main conditions. There's other things that are conditions, like for example, the Whisper's ability, or the Misery, the Whisper's abilities. They're considered conditions. Some of the Faithful's beneficial effects, those are conditions, so not all conditions are bad. There's also different characters that can remove conditions, so you can remove somebody's bad conditions, or you can also use that ability, offensively to try and pull those good conditions off of your enemies. So, but anyway, that's pretty much it for Oathen. So really easy to pick up rules. I know it seemed a little bit wordy because I kind of went through it just myself. If I had some of the other gang in here, we would have been able to run through this pretty quick, but then we'd also have a lot of side talking and stuff like that. So I figured it was better to do this run alone. But if you enjoyed kind of the video, if you were sent here by us, just let us know that you watched the rules and that you're good to go. If you were watching this video for the first time and you had no idea what Oathen was, yeah, go ahead and hunt us down on Facebook. Join the playtesting group. We'd love to get you in a game. I guess as the other expansive note, so yeah, there's 24 characters. The entirety of Oathen also has 75 arena tiles, so the base box is 52. We take it up to 75, and then we also take the game from 3 game modes in the base box all the way up to 10, including there's a game mode it's based off of actual like MOBAs, so you have kind of some tower defense and minions. You use like a longer board format for that. We have a pure cooperative game mode, which actually we're going to be testing Monday. So if you watch this video, Monday I don't know what the date is right now. Today's November 7th. So if you're watching this video and it's the Monday slightly after November 7th, shoot us a message on Facebook. We'll get you in that sucker. So it'll be fun. Anyway, thanks for watching. And if this is PAX South, I love you guys. All right.